who knows? Maybe some of that stuff will cut in there. But I guess I'll start by saying, this is Jake Twogood with JT Mechanical. He's an HVAC. Well, I'm going to let him give his own title because I think that's the whole point of this, is that this is Jake Twogood with JT Mechanical. And what do you do?
I own and operate my own heating and air conditioning business. First words that I come up with is honest, versatile, attentive, and committed. Stands for HVAC.
I love that.
Those are all things that I strongly believe in, which is why we're here today.
Yeah. So, do you feel like that's a shared? Do you feel like that's a shared thing in your trade that people put like at the top of their list, or do you think people put like, like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, the whole. Unfortunately, it's not, and that's the reason why I wanted to put those things out there. You will see them around, honest service, stuff like that, but I feel like the definition's been lost in many ways in this industry and the market.
So how have you tried to bring it back?
Follow up by my word. Be honest. Come up with pricing that isn't gonna make anybody flush or faint. But really, it's more just that relationship that I like with the customer, with the client. Upfront and honest. Just saying, here's your problem. I can show you if you'd like.
Yeah.
And kind of go through it on that instead of just saying, trust me.
Yeah.
Give me money.
Right.
And go from there. So.
Yeah, because it's so funny. Like the thing that where it's like trust me. That's where I think back to like the people that like put a mark on like the filter and then they call the HVAC guy and it's like Sting, right? And they're like, oh yeah, then the guy comes, he's like, yeah, well man, this thing really needs some work. Yeah, well, and then they look and they didn't even change the filter, which is like step one.
Sure. Well, sting operations, those have happened in Colorado.
No way.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure the right person, but I've heard good and bad things about it. But again,
like who runs them? Like the news?
Yeah, the news.
I love that.
Most of the time, that's the way it works. And that's exactly what you think. They call these. Well, they set this whole entire house up, fix everything up perfect, so it's running good, at least perfect to them or whatever. Call a couple different companies to come out as a service call, and they record the whole thing, and they put it on the news, and it's unfortunately can be super embarrassing or can be super enlightening as well.
Totally.
So I used to train a ton of HVAC technicians and all that good stuff. And number one rule is act like you're always on camera.
Totally.
And you'll never be caught by the sting, and you'll just treat people honestly. I mean, I can't imagine it'd be hard to be filmed and not know it, and then have to rewatch yourself and judge every single action.
Like picking your nose up there, doing whatever.
Yeah. So just always act like you're on film. It's a good go-to because you can, rely on your personalities.
Totally. And in a trade, it's almost like, at this point, do you think people might start strapping on a GoPro and then just really start recording everything?
I'd love to. I think that'd be a cool training opportunity.
Yeah, totally.
Try to get just like this in front of people. Get them educated. I'm all about education. You hear a random person come up and say, "You need this part." Capacitor, super common part. Most people don't know what it is.
It sounds like something I should know, and I'm going to lie to you and say, "Oh yeah, it sounds like I should."
It happens, but also it's a super easy part to replace, so it shouldn't be fairly expensive or anything. But yeah, I'm all about education, and I know video is the new go-to, and it would be a lot of fun to actually record things and share it, and just get people's reaction on that as well. It would be a blast.
Yeah. So if we're talking about stings, if we're talking about a sting, if you could design a sting that you think that would help the general public and it might be surprising to people how, if you had to design a sting that you thought would be beneficial to the public, what would you design? What would you set up in your opinion?
What would I set up? Well, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos, but they are set up pretty good. The one thing that I would not advertise as much is who the newscaster, whoever's doing the sting, hired to fix the unit in the first place. And then, because they're calling his competitors and they're making him look like an all-star, which who knows? Who knows? This is all fair game. It's what it should be. So my sting would be, nobody knows who originally fixed the unit. You would have, maybe an educated person, a random person, watch the video and see if they can pick out what things are wrong and what doesn't add up. I'd put the customer more involved in it than just saying, hey, I need my AC fixed. And then seeing what the technician does. I would really, because it's all about customer interaction. That's my trade. That's my business.
because when they do it with just the professional picking apart the other guy, it almost still keeps it behind the curtain. Where
Well, it's just
John Q.
not
Public, that's
fair,
yeah.
in my opinion. It's just not fair because you got someone who says everything's great and they fixed it all and
Oh,
everybody
how
agrees.
interesting! Yeah.
Then you're not really getting the whole picture. It's not fair to the other businesses, small people like me,
Mm-hmm.
not being able to have their word and their 2 cents.
Totally. Because all of a sudden they get this big old
Yes,
fisheye right in
it
their
is
face.
right in. I mean, it's pretty interesting. But the sting operation, I think, is just.
Now, how
It's a
amazing would
great
it
way
be
to
as if
train.
you were like, well, actually, I was recording everything I did too. So let's compare them side by side. Oh my God.
That'd be cool. That'd be fun.
And it's insane that all of a sudden you have something like trades work, and all of a sudden you have technology creeping up on it in a way that you would never really think, right? Like hidden cameras in a trade. It seems almost like, why would you do that? But then
even household security systems, you are on camera as soon as you walk in some of these people's door.
totally,
I ring the doorbell. I'm on camera.
yeah,
I walk in the front door. Some of your properties have those cameras where you first walk in.
right,
Super
the
great
ring
idea.
or whatever, yeah.
No, even inside, set up just for who walks in the door.
Oh,
if you've done
interesting.
that or not.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of those. So everybody wants to know who they got coming to their door. And as a professional, that's my goal, to answer that before I even get there.
Yeah.
Website, little things like this. This is who I am. You don't need to worry,
Mm-hmm.
Who's coming in your house, because it's going to be me.
Totally. So if I were to give so let's say that we were under contract on a property,
Okay.
and I don't venture too far into trying to diagnose anything, but if the inspector says you should probably have an HVAC guy check this out, what are the things that you, as being the HVAC guy, what are the things that you specialize in, or what's like your scope of work versus like what things isn't really in your purview?
Okay. Scope of work. Well, if an inspector needs a cleaning on a furnace, he's looking for, to make sure it's going to keep running for at least a limited period of time while they're under contract. Safety is the big things. Carbon monoxide, stuff like that. If you have a furnace, really just if everything is working properly.
Mm-hmm.
And
so other than just heat coming out of this thing, when I turn that dial to 65 or 70 and heat comes out, that in my mind or other people's mind might be working. So in your professional opinion, what is happening in there, or what could be going wrong in there, I guess, outside of just turning the heat on and it getting heat out?
Yeah, right? Well, the obvious one, of course, is carbon monoxide. The ones that aren't so obvious they kind of actually come into play with the air conditioning coils and things like that. If that system is dirty in any way, there are safety switches on equipment to shut it down in the case of a high temperature, something going on in there. It doesn't mean they're going to work. So anything that is dirty in your furnace, if it's a blower or those AC coils are really clogged up, just because your system's running doesn't mean it's running efficiently or not overheating.
Got it.
Those are kind of the big crucial ones, because you have even filters or things next to these overheating parts. You can get issues.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not common, but there's a lot of things that can happen, especially in our industry in Denver. You are dealing with gas furnaces, fire in the system.
Sure.
So there's a much more higher temperature kind of worry on that. But other things that, just a general cleaning and maintenance, it's something that should be done at least once a year. I try and do biannually, so you have one for AC, one cooling. What's
like an average price that somebody should be looking at?
Yeah, that's a super interesting question. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that word honest. Again, you will see advertisements for $35 tune-up, or whatever lingo they kind of want to do. My prices will tend to be higher than those 35, and that's because I am paying myself as an employee labor charge. I don't know many companies that can afford $35 an hour labor rates.
So they're undercutting just due to their size.
Well, what you'll find, in my experience, and again, just my experience, but what you'll find is these people get out here, and yes, it's $35, but does it include cleaning that blower if it needs to be dirty? Does it include even checking the AC coils to see if those are dirty?
No, that's a part of the super tune-up.
Yeah, it doesn't include that. So now you're looking at, well, I can check this, but it's going to cost you more. For me, a one-time tune-up means exactly as it sounds. I want to check everything. It takes about an hour and a half to do a really good cleaning. And and that's all time that we need to get paid for.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot of material that goes into that. It's really just my time, my skills. I know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
If I do find something bad, I can work with you on how to replace it, or worst case, figure out something else that needs to happen.
Yeah. So if someone were to call you in, and again, they don't know anything about HVAC. They just know that the warm air comes out of those vents, and they know where the thermostat is, and they know that there's a thing called a furnace in their house.
Yes.
So in your, like, if they were just coming in for cleaning or things like that, what places would you need access to, and what places is it kind of you would never need to go?
Yeah, well, I mean, the most important thing is listen to the customer first,
Mm-hmm.
so they know where that thermostat is.
Mm-hmm.
They know, where the outside unit is.
Mm-hmm.
They might not even know where the furnace is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll start with the thermostat and kind of work our way that direction. So furnaces can be in the basement, most commonly underneath staircases or something like that
Mm-hmm.
if they're finished. Crawl spaces is really common. Whether you access that through a closet or outside, that needs to be a clear area to get in there.
Got it.
And be able to carry in a vacuum and all that good stuff.
But if somebody doesn't know where it is, you might need to start going through different closets or stuff like that. So that might not be as weird as people might think.
No, I mean it does happen a lot. People aren't really educated about their home, which is I just think is terrible. So I try and do that myself. But if they don't know where it is, yeah, we're going to start looking. And sometimes I have had cases where you can't go in this room. We really got to get in there and
check to see if that's where it is.
If something doesn't add up and you don't know where it's at, I'm going to do everything I can to help you figure it out.
Sure. And what's funny is I didn't even think about that until like right this minute of when I go into a property as a real estate broker, you have certain expectations of like, okay, they're going to want to see everything.
Yeah.
But then when you have different tradesmen come in, it's almost like if there's a leak under the sink for a plumber, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I really need to get into this bedroom. They're going, okay, what the hell are you doing? Or if they see that on the camera and they're like, what the hell are these people doing?
Sure.
You guys have a very different, unless they're looking for access to the basement to check some pipes or anything like that, you guys are almost in a way different situation where the attic access is not always right under the sink, so to speak.
Sure.
Could be anywhere.
Yeah,
right?
Well, it's not even just the attic access where the unit is. You also have ductwork in your house.
Yeah.
Most houses do, at least, whether it's in the attic or crawl space or in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
A really good, tune-up is going to go to a couple of those vents. Check
really?
some temperatures. Make sure you don't have any carbon dioxide coming out of there.
Mm-hmm.
The HVAC tune-up on the inside of the house it can be pretty invasive if you want to use that word.
Sure.
But really, you need to check those things. A lot of my customers complain, I don't have good airflow over here.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they don't remember that until they walk in.
Totally.
Having those vents clear.
Yeah. Well, it could be the dresser in front of it.
It happens. It happens. But having those clear is going to help me help you as a client.
Totally.
Just to make sure that we can keep you comfortable. If you're hot or cold in this room, there's always a solution.
Sure.
But in order to have a good solution, you got to be able to inspect that too.
Mm-hmm. So do you have very much experience with like that new very popular Nest thermostat?
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Really cool technology.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a ton of technical issues with it, unfortunately. Full disclosure. I've installed quite a few of them. I think the first generation, I guess you'd call it, they had quite a few issues with it. And the issues I'm running into would be the furnace and the AC come on at the same time. Whether it's summer, winter,
and they're working against one another.
Things, yeah, and it's been the back plate which has been the issue. Most of these have been able to be replaced with warranty, which is great. But as far as my thing about the Nest is, it's really cool technology. Nest does a really great idea and job of kind of getting their name out there.
Mm-hmm.
But the technology is everywhere.
Yeah.
There are thermostats that I probably haven't even heard of that offer the same things, but they're not
as popular.
Yeah,
that marketing push, right?
But so if you are a Nest person, totally fine, works great.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, all these companies have kind of your best intention with smoke detectors, carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
But if you're not a Nest person, there is a huge line out there that you can kind of get whatever brand you like.
Sure. Now, are there people that are like certified working on those types of things? Are there certifications behind that, or is everybody's able to do it?
There probably is some certifications on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Nest, the way I stipulate it is if you can buy it at Home Depot, unfortunately everybody can do
Yeah.
it, whether it's right or wrong.
Sure.
There are a ton of right ways to do the nest, and there are a ton of wrong ways to do the nest as far as what wires to hook up, how to hook them up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't touch the wires. Shut the power off.
Yeah.
I know the directions are really clear, but sometimes you need a little more direction.
Yeah.
And but that's stuff that I offer over the phone.
Yeah.
If you got a thermostat and you're just kicking yourself because you can't do it,
Mm-hmm.
just call.
Yeah, I
I
love
can
that.
walk you through it, and it's simple as that.
So this is a really good testimonial that is to that very point. So this guy was doing his own plumbing, and I'm underneath my house with the pipe cutter, and I'm familiar enough with plumbing enough that I could do it. It's just you need that safety net, and this man is the safety net. So he literally means call him, and he'll be able to at least walk you through. And I think he said advice is free, but if you want any more than that, and that's the best way to work with people. So imagine me under the crawl space, cold dark place, and I'm about ready to cut the main line, water line to the house. And so I walk through the whole plan and everything like that, but still I have this thing on the pipe clamped, and I have it I think cut like twice around, and I go, oh my god, what am I going to do if this doesn't work? What's the contingency? This guy's the contingency. So I crawled out of that thing like the swamp thing out of the crawl space, and I call him on the phone, and he picks up and he explains the whole thing to me, and it just was just that. It was the education, it was the safety net of really being able to on the spot get a real qualified opinion and advice and actionable advice, not like, well, that sounds really complicated, and I'd probably be able to make it over there, and since it's probably after hours by the time I get there, it might, I have to charge you a service fee and all this kind of stuff. So granted, we know each other and we have a personal relationship, but that's the whole point of a podcast like this, is to share that is a real thing with a lot of real true professionals. So I think one of my favorite questions to ask people that are sitting in that chair are, what is something that if you're talking to a client and their eyes glaze over, that you really wish that you could tell them, no, this is really something you should pay attention to?
Yeah.
What's maybe the top one or two of those that you really, really hope to instill in people? And it's like, no, pay attention, really get this.
Well, in my industry, it's all about parts, replacing parts, maintaining parts. A lot of people like their cars, and anything I can do to relate to a car or pick up on some personality trait that they have an interest in,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's it can be anything, fishing or knitting, who knows.
Uh-huh.
I always try and just flip the switch, try and explain this part in terms that they understand.
Oh, interesting.
But cars, even some woodworking people, I've done that a lot.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of parts on all these machines because at the end of the day, a furnace, an air conditioner, heat pump, it's a machine.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of the same parts. So anything that you can kind of compare with really helps. Just really helps.
What's one that sticks out? What's the knitting one? I want to know the knitting one.
Knitting, I mean, oh man.
So if there's a knitter out there that ever has a furnace problem, this is how it's going to be explained to you.
Right?
Yeah.
Now I gotta think. I don't know, when I think of a machine, a knitting machine or a sewing machine, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a process of how this thing works. You got to set the cloth on the table, get the needle lined up or thread the needle.
Mm-hmm.
Furnace and air conditioning work the same way. There's a step-by-step process for that unit to turn on when you turn your dial
Mm-hmm.
to 68 or whatever you're
Totally.
comfortable with. So a great example, people do call me sometimes, and the first thing I kind of want to figure out is if they're technically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they are a knitter, I consider that technically inclined,
So you
way
probe.
more than myself.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of like to walk them through, whatever they're looking at. Some people can actually go to their furnace, take the door off, and we can diagnose it right there.
Oh, cool.
I can show up at the part, 30 minutes later or however long,
And just
and
expedite it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, all the machines operate in a certain order, and so does your heating and cooling unit. Once you know that order and you've kind of mastered what parts go in there,
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of get away with anything.
So that's awesome. Because so many people that are just like, I'll be there in a couple minutes. I don't even want to waste my time explaining this to you because it's going to be in one ear out the other. But I'm sure you can attest that that's the same way I like to work with people, is that if you empower them to know the process, all of that mistrust and all that kind of stuff usually just dissipates.
Well, it's fun too because if you empower somebody, you feel that as well.
Totally.
They feel it, you feel it. I like to share that.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I mean, everybody's should be educated about something. If it fails, you can have really bad problems on your hands.
Totally.
If you cut a pipe and it doesn't work, you can have huge problems. So you just need to know the kind of parameters there, and that's easy stuff. You can find that anywhere, but sometimes the best thing is just pick up the phone. As I mentioned all the time, advice is free. Just call and chat. If you got a question, that's what I'm here for.
Totally. And you're a well-spoken guy, so it's okay. Yeah. I can't say the same thing about everybody else. But so outside of a furnace, outside of like the vents, outside of the thermostat, what else is in your bag of tricks? Or I guess what other things? Well, I guess to bring it back, the reason why you're able to work on a furnace, the reason why you're able to work and give that advice is because you're a licensed, insured professional in it. So the reason why you can't work outside of that is because you don't have the real authority to do that for other people.
Sure.
Because you're dealing with noxious gases, you're dealing with electrical, you're dealing with all these different types of things.
Yeah.
Heat going out in the winter, bad thing.
Yeah.
So explain to us the licensing process that you've went through, like kind of what the insurance does and how it works, and what other things you're able to do under what you're licensed for.
Yeah. I guess I'll start with the licensing factor. The really cool thing about mechanical, the word mechanical, which is HVAC, is it entails plumbing, a little bit of electrical. Mechanical is kind of the operations and airflow, things like that. The mechanical license actually consumes all of that. Plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. So it's really fun to be able to learn 3 different professions, at least start to learn a couple other ones, while getting that, license and be able to offer that advice to people.
So I didn't even know mechanical license was a differentiator than other things. So that means that you are technically a plumber.
Technically, any gas, fireplaces, stuff like that, that's a mechanical system. So therefore, you can, however, hire a plumber. Some of them do the fireplaces, but when it has anything to do with venting, venting that fireplace, that's mechanical, that's HVAC. Yeah, so even boilers, stuff like that, that's a big one for me. I've gotten really into boilers. Great units, kind of difficult to work on. But you also have a vent going off of that boiler. That's mechanical. So you gotta know about
sewer
that.
has a vent.
So that's waste in vent. That is totally different.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, it's not burning any fuel.
Some men would disagree.
Maybe so. But yeah, that would mostly be plumbing. Waste in vent. All the plumbing pipes you see. Now you're starting to see the PVC pipes kind of sticking out of the outside walls of buildings. That's actually mechanical, high efficiency stuff, things like that.
Interesting.
So it all relates, which is why I really like mechanical and HVAC, because electrical, that little disconnect on the outside. You got to know how to work on breakers, got to know what to touch and not touch.
Totally.
And some people actually will not work on that at all. It's probably from professional to professional or technician basis. Depending on who you're dealing with, will do, probably may go outside of their, I just do the HVAC guy, or they may not.
Yeah.
It depends. And that's kind of where it comes into insurance and, having that protection there.
Sure.
The biggest term when HVAC and insurance is warranty. And as parts warranties, labor warranties. If you didn't have any kind of insurance and you offered that kind of stuff, if something bad were to happen, a ceiling falls in or something crazy, and it's something to do with the unit, doesn't mean I'm necessarily liable, but I can at least have insurance to back me up to work with a customer. Maybe I can pay some, or there's going to be stipulations there that the insurance has to figure out.
Right.
But it's protection for me to be able to say, yeah, that happened because of the mechanical unit, and maybe we can settle out what needs to be repaired.
Sure. Rather than just Joe Schmo who, is going to be like, I didn't do that.
Well, yeah, I'm not insured. I mean, there's certain stipulations you can sue somebody, or go to collections or whatever you want to call it. Another reason to have insurance, worst case, you just never know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, the perfect thing is carbon monoxide. I have a tester that I go around every single call I go to test for that carbon monoxide. Is it going to be a guaranteed yes, you're okay?
No.
Not necessarily,
Yeah.
which is why we have detectors. But if I was there the day before and then something terrible happens in that household, fire department comes out and there's something going on, I want insurance for that,
Totally.
for that family and for myself.
Yeah.
So insurance is big, and then it gets into commercial as well. Commercial meaning, your office building having different types of units that you have to work on. Another thing about mechanical is there's a residential side and then there's a commercial side. They're similar, but the commercial is a lot more advanced.
I can imagine.
Talk about technology. Some of these units, you don't even work on them anymore. You
Plug
in your computer and you sit there and diagnose it.
Sounds like a car.
Incredible.
Wow.
It's incredible. And that's where everything's going, even residential.
Wow.
They have units now for that. And another thing about mechanical is it's continually changing. So you got to do, extra education, get into some certain classes and learn about the new units. A lot of those are required by, manufacturers to be able to install their stuff. So it is a really progressive kind of profession to be in.
Sure. It's always interesting how people that are supposed to be real estate agents are then expected to ask for very specific things in an objection without being too specific, right?
Yeah.
So the things I mean by specificity, I don't necessarily mean like the capacitor needs to be changed,
Sure.
right? That's way out of our scope. But the specificity comes in asking exactly what we need, right? So to ask for now from this conversation, I'm guarantee I'm going to write insured next to contractor.
Right.
That's a stipulation that's specific because it narrows down to make sure that the seller then is going to check to make sure they're insured. But along with that, I'm going to ask that I'm going to insist that they're licensed, qualified. Now, qualification is a very loose term, but it still narrows it down out of somebody who isn't qualified, right?
Sure.
Go figure. So then, if we add an insured, that narrows the pool by a lot.
It does.
And so, what I'm also going to ask for is that tradesman puts their stamp, for lack of a better word, on their work that they've done. And the term that's thrown around a lot in real estate, at least in Denver, is provide a certification for it.
Right.
Now, that's not ever necessarily provided in writing or some certificate like congratulations, but it almost seems like that's what it should be, right?
Well, certification, from what I've been told and kind of my experience with it, is it's almost like a legal term. So I can say the unit works good, no carbon monoxide. That kind of sets me apart a little bit. If I say it's certified, I'm almost putting my word, like you were saying, you want your stamp on that paper, putting my word on the line a little bit. And so if something terrible is going on, I'm going to be completely reliable rather than just saying I didn't say that.
Sure.
The word certified, I think, is used a lot more in the law,
right,
rather than regular day-to-day tune-ups or even these interactions.
Sure.
So I think they came up with that word maybe to be a little more forceful.
Right.
But I've also have never seen or had a great answer as far as what someone actually means by when they say certified.
Sure, and I think what might even be more dangerous is that they don't either.
Well, you can bounce around from company to company, and they'll give you their own terms of what certified means. But I've even ran into a couple of inspectors who we had different views on that, and he said that it needed to be cleaned a certain way, and unfortunately, that cleaning will cost me a lot more money than what I originally quoted, because it's, for one, not part of the certification, wasn't a safety hazard or anything like that, just some dust actually outside of the furnace itself.
Sure.
And I was in trouble because I didn't clean the dust outside of the furnace itself in a crawl space.
Sure.
So, like I said, the certification word, I think, comes from the inspectors, for one. What does it mean? I think, to me, it means, is the unit safe to operate? It might be old, but is it safe? Is
right.
it, operating correctly? Can it run for longer than 10 minutes without shutting off? That's one that a lot of people miss sometimes. It should run continually without shutting off. If it does shut off, you
good
probably
working
have an
order.
issue.
And again, these are all they're unquantified terms,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, it is almost disheartening because if anybody's watching this and they're dealing with an inspector, who's licensed, who has whose livelihood is based around their expertise of this. Well, I guess it should just come down to the word expertise.
Yeah.
Licensed, if somebody is qualified, licensed, and insured in that trade, ask your inspector if they have the same thing, because then they are going from their opinion that then they are then referring their opinion out to get a professional recommendation versus them giving an unqualified recommendation because they aren't licensed, they aren't insured, they aren't qualified. So if I were in that situation, I would 100% start questioning that inspector because your word, your license, your insurance is on the line, and that you will be the one who's come back to if anything isn't right. Not to have the inspector write your work order essentially, and then he's the de facto general contractor.
Yeah.
And so, do you run up against that more often than not?
I've ran up quite a few times. I've ran up against that, and basically, my position there is, I get put in this position where I'm not helping the buyer or whoever's selling the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much the inspector is the third party. Homeowner says this, inspector goes out and inspects it, and then it comes back on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do value your opinion on licensing, mechanical, and being insured, because it does weigh a lot on your mind when you're dealing with things like this. But the end game for me is, okay, you want this thing cleaned or however, cool. We can do that.
But here's the price.
There might be a price associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
I have had other employees kind of miss a few things, and visually, I just walk in there and say, "Yeah, no, they missed that. I'll take care of that. No problem."
Mm-hmm.
And then me and that employee have a conversation. But that's kind of the hard stipulation too. Calling all these different companies, the pool does get narrowed by bringing up all those things: insured, licensed, qualified.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get into the bigger businesses, which is not a bad thing. But they can move a lot quicker than I can.
Sure.
And they have a lot more employees to try and hone in
mm-hmm.
on certain things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's important to hire a company who's can be close to the customer, but also close with their employees.
Totally.
And not have to put you in a situation where you gotta call me back, because that's the last thing you kind of want as a professional. I got other things going on. Get this done.
And they're having to call you back.
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult situation we put in on both parts.
And it kind of comes full circle to the sting thing, right? So let's say this inspector said, "Hey, we need this furnace certified or cleaned and certified." Okay, that means certain things to you, but you don't necessarily agree on those terms prior to you coming in and doing it.
Yeah.
So let's say that inspector said, "Hey, you know what? Just to be on the safe side, we're going to set up some cameras, and we're going to sting this guy, and let's see if he really does it." And it's just to protect you. You've already got some cameras laying around. Let's just do it, and we'll see how it goes. So you come in, do what you in your bidding, your price. If you line item it out, whatever it is, that's what you clean and certify for, and you are qualified, licensed, and insured.
Yeah.
Then he goes, "Guess what? We got him. We got him on camera not doing it. He didn't clean the dust outside of that thing." So then they call you back in and they go, "Gotcha." So then anybody that's watching that kind of sting show is going like, "Oh, that rat bastard didn't clean it." And you're going, "Wait a minute." But then they cut it off and they go like, "Oh, don't show that anymore," when he explains it. So it's interesting to see, kind of have the insight of somebody that's kind of gotten jerked around by.
I think everybody has, yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like, well, what's the motive there, right?
It's true.
What's the motive? And so I think that when you clearly come in, and instead of just going like, "Okay, don't worry about it. I'll go up there and I'll take care of it. You want to clean? I'll clean it for you. I'm in and out and I'll be gone."
Yeah.
Rather than you, Jake, JT Mechanical, you come in. I've already had a phone call with them. Yeah. You come in and you explain, you educate them. If you go up there, clean it, come back down, leave, and then the inspector comes back and he's like, "Guess what? He didn't clean it." And they go, "Well, wait a minute. He explained it to me."
Yeah.
And
they agreed to it.
So then they go, "Well, let me call Jake back," rather than like, "Oh, that's."
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like just even the way that you operate professionally, it dampens that a lot, right?
Yeah, it's you learn every day, different situations,
Hmm.
how to deal with certain people, because
Yeah.
you're always going to run. No matter how good you do your job, there's something that's always going to happen,
Yeah.
and it is that. It's how you react to that, how you respond, right or wrong, changes from every interaction.
Yeah.
But I think you just actually set up the perfect sting operation that I kind of want to get into. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But really, yeah, I mean, it's just about, to me, it's the customer, whether it's the inspector talking to me or not. What does this customer expect to, when they buy their house?
Yeah.
And what are their stipulations? Because that's what I'm going to work on, not necessarily what an inspector means or doesn't mean. I am going to communicate, differently than an inspector might with the customers.
Sure.
So, but it is all about education before you get to the house. After you're done, whether it's on the phone or showing up firsthand, here's what I did. Here's a list of what I did. Certain things like that. Little things, but they go a long ways.
Sure.
So
Now, so do you like? So you when did you start your company?
yeah.
So you've been in the business for a long time, but you
I've
just
been
struck
in the
out.
trade. Yeah, I've been in the trade for 10 years. 2018, 10
Yeah.
years to be exact. A little more. Probably I should have been working, but. My business is less than a year old. Started May 2017.
Okay.
So just getting on it, really.
So you got your first few projects in the bag, and what do you have you decided to include anything else in the way you do business that you think kind of stands out from other companies? Like,
I value the fact that I am small. I'm a small business with I have goals and achievements to get to for sure, but I'm focused on that kind of personal level. A lot of the companies, even websites, is a great example. You can go on a website of whatever company somebody highly recommends, but you still don't understand who or what they are. I really like to say, I'm Jake with JT Mechanical. This is who I am. I happen to love my profession, but you're really getting a bigger slice of me.
Yeah.
If you have an issue, if you actually call, it's going to be me answering the phone.
Yeah.
I can always be available. So I like to focus in on that personal touch, even with just interactions. I love meeting new people, learning some interesting things about them. The personal touch is what I kind of enjoy to.
Well, because what's really interesting about you, from what I've seen from an outside perspective, is you do, at least, you make it appear as if you really do love what you do. And you make it look like art. Because the way that you even curate your social media, like on Instagram, there's some very duct work can just look like duct work.
Silver stuff, yeah.
But if you do it the right way, it can be very pretty. It's almost like a abstract, or maybe not abstract, but it's like a modern art piece. It's like an installation almost.
Yeah, I enjoy that aspect of it for sure.
So if you do take anything away from this, look up what's JT Mechanical on Instagram.
It's JA Twogood, which is my last name.
JA Twogood.
So,
on Instagram.
Or Facebook.
Yeah, or Facebook. Follow him and just take a look at what he does and see if that's what any of the other maybe big box or other people that you might expect being in the trade, if that's what they would do. Or unless it's like, two people shaking somebody's hand with like the hard hat and the belt, and they're like,
"That's what I mean by
we don't smell weird," kind of thing.
That's what I mean by keeping it personal.
Yeah, totally.
That's it for me. But no, I'm third generation HVAC professional.
Cool.
I like to joke that it's genetic at this point. But I am pretty artsy when it comes to making sober stuff look good.
Totally.
But yeah, I just love what I do, and if you don't see that in my work, then I'd be really surprised.
Totally. Tell us about some of your projects that really show that.
My big thing, and you'll find in a different area, finding someone to work on a boiler is really hard.
Okay.
I really like boilers and working on boilers because it is all about art and doing it the right way. There's a right and wrong way to do things.
Now, if you had to sum it up, why don't people like working on them?
They can be really complicated. There's a ton of controls that go into it, lots of valves, on, off, motors. There are a ton of parts that go into a boiler, but from a customer standpoint, boilers are the best way to heat your home, most efficient, and the units are getting more and more efficient every day.
Cool.
But also, you can replace a lot of those parts on the boiler without replacing the boiler.
Oh, cool.
So there's a lot of parts outside of the actual unit that you're looking at, big old square, that are worked on, have to be worked on, and can be replaced. So you will find, and I think many people know, boilers last a really, really long time. At
Mm-hmm.
least the old ones do. Now the new technology has just changed dramatically. I deal with Navian, which is one of the leaders in combination boilers, high efficiency stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and their technology is just on another level. They've
Cool.
won a couple of awards for it. But piecing all these things together, converting an old boiler to a new high efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of time, personal experience, but
Mm-hmm.
it is rewarding for both parties.
I
For
love
sure.
that.
The other thing I've always been interested in Colorado, a lot of my professional career as an HVAC technician, supervisor, all that good stuff, it was in Florida, which has completely different types of units,
Mm-hmm.
heat pumps to be exact, geothermal stuff like that. And I'm really thinking Colorado, our climate, it's not super cold all the time. When it is, yeah, you need that gas.
Mm-hmm.
But with the new big hits in solar and stuff like that, I think a lot of people should really be looking at their heat pump ideas for heating and cooling their home.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere you go online, at least in the Midwest, maybe even out here west, they will talk you away from it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have that huge solar bank on your house, you can just use that electricity and get free heating and cooling.
Cool.
It's a project I'm really trying to find someone who would like to do that. I know it will work. It just got to be done right, and that's a motivator for me for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So explain. So it sounds like you're into that. So explain how that'd work. Like
So out in the west, of course, we got all these gas lines. Natural gas is how most people heat their house. Yeah, out east, especially southeast, you don't have those huge natural gas pipelines in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
One for water, and other they're just kind of middle of nowhere sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So they use electricity, which that's like I said, it's up and coming. Everybody's getting solar. Heat pumps use refrigerant instead of gas, and they
cool.
count on electric heat strips as well to make up the temperature differences when you need them.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, you can get those same temperature differences with electricity that you get with gas.
Now, what's the price differential?
The price differential in the equipment, it's very comparable to replacing your AC.
Oh.
The only difference between a furnace and a heat pump is the refrigerant side of it. There's quite a few more parts in there. And instead of having the burners and stuff like that for the furnace, you have what they call an air handler, which has your coils in there, blower, and then your electric heat bank. So if
So
you
the
have
bank is hot, and then you
furnace,
blow air past that, and then
Yeah.
it transfers the heat to it.
Yeah, heating and cooling. It's all about heat transfer.
Right.
When you think it's working right, just kind of reverse it sometimes and
Right.
work the other way. That's
So
how a heat pump works.
would you say that this is almost like a paradigm shift to the way that tankless water heaters are to water heaters? Because so instead of just having this pool of 50 gallons of hot water that's just sitting there and you're constantly having to heat that up, tankless water heaters eliminate the tank and it's like a radiator where that water runs through there and it heats it up when you need it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the systems operate the same. When you need heating, the refrigerant turns on, which is the compressor outside. That's a big electricity draw. Out here in Colorado, when we need heat, we just turn the furnace on, and that air conditioner side does not turn on, so you're saving energy.
Right.
But you're also paying a gas bill. A lot of people, EPA regulations, stuff like that. Gas, should we be using gas? Should we not be using gas? That is where I think heat pumps might kind of elevate.
Yeah.
People want to get rid of their gas bill. They're converting their tankless or their tanked water heaters to tankless water heaters.
Sure.
Lower that gas bill. And if they have solar, it's free energy from
So,
the sun.
so if somebody's looking to buy a house and they're convinced that they want solar panels. They're like, okay, I've seen they're just convinced they want solar panels.
Yeah.
What would you like to put in their ear that they're like, oh, well, I could do something else would be beneficial with these solar panels, not just the electricity?
And that's the point. It would be, why do they want solar panels?
Right.
Do they want to lessen their electricity bill because the lights are too expensive, something like that? A lot of people don't consider their air conditioner and furnace to be a big electricity draw on their house. So, I mean, the opportunity is there if you can get enough of that sunlight. I'm not sure what the stipulations are with the Excel and stuff like that. But like I said, you can just save money, get rid of your gas bill entirely, and just have that electricity bill.
That's cool.
Sunny days, your electricity bill is less.
So basically, if somebody's already like 100% sure they want solar panels, there's also an opportunity for them to use the solar panels in conjunction with their heating and their cooling.
Yeah,
Dude,
and
that's cool.
just opening up. I hope that conversation is there to open up more opportunities than just, hey, you want your electricity bill to be less?
Right.
I'd like to explain how.
Right.
And different ways you can do it, instead of just having them come out, set up, do all the solar, and then have to come out again and do all the things that maybe weren't explained to you.
Now, would that cost? So the installation and setup, like maybe not just offsetting the cost of gas and that kind of stuff, but let's say that I'm working with a buyer and they are like, yeah, we definitely want this place even because the garage. I could put all the solar panels up there. It'll really help the electricity. What is my 30-second bit that I could, other than just saying? So here's what I would say, garnered from what we just said. Well, if you're interested in solar panels, and I also know that there's ways that you might be able to integrate it into your heating, like your furnace.
Yeah, cool.
Heating and your air conditioning.
That's right.
And their mind's gonna be blown a little bit because these people have already convinced themselves that they want solar. And so then what do I say? Just talk to my friend Jake. He can explain more.
It's one thing you could say.
So, but what about, here's a video clip that I could have you watch. Mm-hmm. Talk to that guy right now, or that gal.
Yeah. So if you're interested in solar on your house, there are opportunities and ways you can get essentially free heating or cooling, which everybody likes. I don't think it's a very common notion right now. There's a bunch of different types of units, but we're talking about heat pumps. A heat pump works in the same way your air conditioner does in the summer, only it actually heats your air instead of cools it in the winter. It's really that simple. If you already have a furnace in your house, you have all that ductwork already ran, it's fairly simple to probably adapt a heat pump to your current situation. And efficiency, you can kind of get as high efficiency as you want. If you're going to use that sunlight and have that help you out with your electricity bills, a heat pump is just the way to go as far as that.
Cool.
So, but there are also new to the market, and I think these are coming a lot more, and I really have enjoyed working with them. It's Mitsubishi is the brand, and they're called mini split systems. They're ductless units.
Just heard about those.
Yeah, they're pretty popular, really popular, and for good reason. Talk about cost to run. They're one of the cheapest units you can actually run as far as efficiency goes. They're like 23 SEER, that seasonal energy efficiency ratio. So that just means they work really well for a different one space that you might have, and they cost a lot less to run. A lot of people, try and not run their air conditioner because they know as soon as they kick it on, the meter's going to start spinning. Excel's going to send them a big bill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just constantly in the past, I'd say 5 to 10 years, the HVAC industry has kind of seen that and tried to come up with different ways to lessen that, ouch, when they get your electricity bill in the summertime. Mitsubishi is one of the leading, manufacturers as far as efficiency goes and high tech heating and cooling. And these guys just hang on the wall in different rooms. A lot of these new places that they're building all over Denver, they're going to have multiple wall-hung units with one condenser rather than having ductwork.
Whoa.
A lot of times that's what you'll see. So they kind of cool the space. They can be controlled. Heating, cooling, whoever's in that room, they can do whatever they want with it.
How cool.
And it's throughout the house. So it's pretty cool stuff.
So if I'm showing a house and this place has this archaic system in it, basically the thought process now needs to be not, okay, now I just need to buy a new air conditioner. There are a ton more different.
There can be. Mitsubishi actually ironically makes air handler heat pumps as well. So yeah, I mean, just one thing about Mitsubishi, we're not talking gas furnaces to heat. We're not talking anything gas. It's all heat pumps.
Whoa.
Yeah, super
Dude.
high-end refrigerant kind of heating and cooling, and also a little bit of electric heat in there as well. But now that's a new line for Mitsubishi, really, doing those air handler units that we were talking about. That could be one option. But more commonly, you're seeing these little mini split units used in like a hot bedroom. That one
Sure.
place in the house that's
Or
always
the
cold in the
upstairs part.
winter
Yeah.
and always hot in the summer. That's where these kind of really take off.
Cool.
But what a lot of people don't understand there either
Mhm.
is it can go a lot further than that.
Sure.
And you won't again have that super high electricity bill just for running your AC. Mitsubishi has really honed in on how to make these things neat looking for one, fun to install for
Do you have like a
make it
benchmark
work.
of what the price? Let's say I needed to redo it, and what the comparative price would be between this option versus like a traditional one. Total ballpark.
Basically, AC, adding a new AC to your house, refrigerant lines and all that good stuff. If you just have a furnace and don't have central air, a general ballpark for me is $2,800 to $3,800 for pretty decent unit. All you need really for cooling and heating. For Mitsubishi kind of mini split systems, depending on if you want 2 wall units or one, it's pretty comparative. The technology in these Mitsubishi units are just the best on the market, and you will pay for it. But you get what you pay for. Great warranties on it, stuff like that. So you're probably in the 45, 5,500 range at that point. But the thing that everybody forgets is you also need electrical capacity for it, which is an added expense sometimes. And also, talk about plumbing, it needs to drain as well.
Sure.
So it's not as easy as hanging it on the wall, but I can make it look that easy.
Totally.
So.
And you can make it look pretty too.
Yeah. There's a very wide range of units you can get.
Totally.
But I'm glad we brought that up because that's a just up and coming market for sure.
Yeah, totally. Where's JT Mechanical headed?
Yeah, like I said, I've been in business for almost a year. Getting there, it's been a fantastic year. I've had a couple commercial projects, a lot more residential. So for me, the next step is obviously going to be expand a little bit with the market in Denver, get maintenance programs, things like that out there. Just kind of keep on spreading my skills, but also commercial jobs. Those are always fun. There's tons of building going on here. Duct work, tinning. Like I said, I learned from my grandfather and my dad, so how bad can it be? But I'm just looking to kind of grow with the market.
Totally.
So it'd be a blast. I'm looking forward to it.
So it sounds to me like people can get you on the phone. That's your preferred method. Yeah. We'll have his phone number in the below or above or wherever. JT Mechanical on Facebook. JAT. JA Twogood.
Yeah, it's just my initials.
Instagram.
If you notice something, initials JT. I had to throw a middle initial in there.
So totally. Okay. So, dude, thank you for coming on. This has been a super enlightening episode for everybody, and you explained it very eloquently, and it's very easily digestible. So, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Chase. It's great. Been looking forward to it.
So, right on. Yeah. So there you go, JT Mechanical, and that's it. That's number 3 in the can.
All right.